There. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Connecting Communities with Brian J. and what? Who? Davida Fink, aka the Finkmeister. No, don't ever call her that. Davida,
Brian,
welcome.
wait, I have to interrupt you. Like, that's what my husband calls some of my kids.
The Finkmeister. Oh, that's hilarious.
It's very
great
funny.
minds. Great
Anyway.
minds. That's what it is. Davida, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm doing great, actually. Yeah, looking forward to spring. If Mother Nature and Father Time ever align their calendars here in the Cleveland area, we might get some spring. We'll see.
So Health Pure and Simple is located or based in good old Cleveland, Ohio. Is that what I'm hearing?
Good old Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah.
Good old Cleveland. Yes. If you watch the Drew Carey show, you know exactly where that is, right?
Who doesn't know where that is, right?
Yeah.
Terminal Tower and the lake that caught fire. Yeah.
Good times. Well, thanks for making some time and coming and hanging out with us today. We're going to learn a lot about different subjects, but I want to share a story. And definitely, obviously, it involves Davida. So 2 weeks ago, I was just down and out, right? Wasn't feeling well. I had done some crazy things over the weekend. I was pounding coffee, right? We all know I have my coffees. I ended up having like 6 a day because I was working through some things. Didn't take care of myself. Realized I wasn't drinking water by a couple signs that were happening, and my body was shutting down, Davida. As we've spoke about that, right? And what do I mean by that? I mean that I wasn't going to the restroom, right? And when I did, it was so almost brown. The color of it was crazy. Number 2 is I was getting these heart palpitations. They would wake me up. It was like vibrations in my chest. So then I do as most educated people do. We Google it. Okay. So I realized at that point that either 1, I was dehydrated, or I had Parkinson's. Okay. Those were my 2 choices. Okay. So I kind of went to the dehydration point, right? And you and I spoke about that, the importance of water.
Yes.
Importance of water.
Yes, and it's one of these things that's often overlooked. And I'll start with just a basic fact that most people don't understand, and that is your body doesn't really signal the difference between hunger and thirst. So the side effects can be very similar. So if you're hungry and or thirsty, you can get those heart palpitations for sure. You can get lightheaded, dizzy, fatigued, that those bathroom issues that tend to come about. You can just get kind of foggy in the brain. Have you ever had that where you're just foggy in the brain, or
100%.
you're just right,
100%.
or you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired, I'm dragging. And then what does everybody look for? Everybody looks for that sugar, or that coffee, right? I'm gonna have a coffee. I'm gonna have a sugar fix or something like that. And what their body's really telling them is, you're thirsty, you need water. Remember, the body is over 70%, 80% water. So you need that water to keep everything moving, everything flowing. So when I'm coaching clients, and I start with this, if you ever ask me, I start with this with everybody, because people don't drink water. I mean, I have my water in front of me. People don't drink. Good for you. People don't drink water. So the first thing you need to do is, if you're having any of those symptoms, or if you think you're hungry, but you shouldn't be hungry because, gosh, I just had lunch, why would I be hungry? A glass of water, and start every meal with a glass of water. It is one of the easiest fixes that you can do to feel better. And water is important because of that saliva, right? Saliva is the first stage in digesting your food. People don't realize that digestion starts in the mouth, right? Those enzymes in saliva start breaking down the food, and then helps it, right, obviously, to go down the food pipe, right? That's why people choke on peanut butter, right? Things that are dry don't go down so easily. So that saliva is a very important part of the process, and it's the beginning of the digestive process.
That's crazy. It just doesn't, it's so, everything is based off of one thing, right? Just pure and simple, no pun intended, or maybe just a little pun intended, but it's just about being simple, right? Don't overcomplicate things. I think that's why, folks in the 1800s, like, we never saw overweight people, right? We didn't. Because why? Because they didn't have as much sugar and so much of that instant gratification pieces out there. They were eating the food that they got in their garden, right? The lettuces, which is what? How much water is in lettuce, Davida?
Yeah, yeah, over 90%. In fact, I'm growing
Yeah.
lettuce on
So
my countertop
in my
right now.
opinion, again, I am not the expert as you are, so correct me if I'm wrong. Is that a correlation of where we are today versus where we were, 2,000 years ago?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because when you're talking about the 1800s, the peasants weren't generally overweight, but the rich were overweight because the rich
Oh,
got they had the refined breads. They did sometimes, refine those processes. So it was interesting that those who ate from their gardens were those who were healthier. And when you think about how much water you need, I mean, you need a lot of water, right? So we're talking about, for men, we're talking about 15 and a half cups of water a day. It's a lot. For
how
women,
much
we're
is
talking
cups? I
about
gotta figure out how many ounces are in cups. I'm keep talking. I'm
eight,
Googling.
8 ounces in a cup,
Okay.
and 11 and a half cups a day for women. Now that's the starting point. Remember, if you're eating produce, if you're eating foods that are water-based, if you're eating fresh produce, right? And if you're eating a good variety and a decent amount, that can account for about 20% of your water intake. So the water you get from food does count. But, don't sit down and have one apple and think, well, there's 2 cups of liquid. I mean, one apple's a good start, but it's a start, right?
It's
In fact,
about
I
creating
have this
those.
big water bottle, 64 ounces, and I fill it up every day. And by 3 o'clock, that water bottle is empty.
It's about creating those good habits, right? And I think sometimes we fall into that flow of, hey, this is what I'm doing now. I don't have time to stop and do this. I mean, the last 2 years have been crazy on people. I think we had a conversation about, that COVID 25, right? And how now that we're sitting in front of the computer, not taking that lunch break walk, right? Not
Right.
going and walking up the stairs to the 6th floor where you worked. I mean, tell me about that. What's your thoughts on the COVID 25?
Well, if it's just the COVID 25, you're lucky. Um, I talked to somebody a couple of weeks ago. It was the COVID 40. That's a little harder. But circling that back to water. Water is also very important for weight regulation. So just
Yeah.
keep that in mind. So, like you said, we are not moving as much as we used to. I know my husband's in a hospital. He's now in a single floor unit, but he used to go up and down several flights of steps every day.
Mhm.
Even that has changed. I used to spend 8-10 hours a day on my feet. I don't know how many hours a day I've been in front of the computer just today. Everything's on Zoom. Our shopping comes to our door, which is definitely convenient. But, I used to get in 10, 12, 15,000 steps a day, my Fitbit, no
Right.
problem. Now it's like, it's 6 o'clock and I'm like, oh gosh, 4,200. I've got some work to do.
There have
Right?
been many times that I've
So,
had to walk around my garage doing steps just to get my 10,000 in, right? So I'm like,
right,
I've got to do it. Not just
right.
walking in the garage.
It's true. I've done it too. I've walked around my dining room table. In fact, interestingly enough, though, here's what people don't, the importance of that is this was done in 2012. So this was before this all started. There was a research study done in the University of Sydney, actually, and they compared those who sit for more than 11 hours a day to those who sit less than 4 hours a day. And for those people who sit more than 11 hours a day, they have a 40% increased risk of dying in the next 3 years.
Wow.
That's 40 out of 100. I mean, that's a really big number. And then, of course, all that sitting, it's bad for your heart. It's bad for all of those things. It's bad for, cholesterol. It's bad for gut health. All of those things, that all ties into, a lot of it ties into movement, and we're not talking about necessarily, having to get up and, pound out an hour at the gym every day. I mean, I sit at my desk for long periods of time and I set a timer and I work from home. So every 20, 30, 40 minutes, I get up and go up and down my steps a couple of my stairway. And that's really all it is. It's just, as you said earlier with water, it's the same with movement, just working it into your day.
Well, I think it's a big deal also. You mentioned earlier in our conversation on how much that weight gain is on your back, right? Your shoulders, your legs. It's all about spring cleaning. Not only are you going to spring clean your house, right, as I do every October and every April. I do clean in between, but those are my deep downs, right? What does spring cleaning mean to you in the health and wellness piece?
So it's interesting because we had to talk about this a couple of months ago when we did our podcast on self-care. So the spring cleaning is, people think about spring cleaning like that. What's your deep dive spring clean, right? You're going to open the windows, you're going to bang out the rugs, you're going to dust down those cobwebs, right? It's all about cleaning your house. But what about cleaning your house, where you live, inside of yourself? Because that COVID-25, all that sitting, it's not good for mental health. It's not good for psychological health. And, you need to take care of yourself so you can take care of others. I mean, it's depressing to think about when you think about that COVID-25. For instance, I have a colleague that I was talking to about some health and wellness issues. And he was telling me, sharing some things with me about his parents. And his mother has some health issues. And she had lost a lot of weight prior to COVID. And then, of course, COVID hit and she put it all back on. And he's now trying to get back in charge of his health. And he wants to get his mom on the bandwagon. He says, yeah, I started going to the gym and I'm going to take my mom to the gym with me. And I said, nice. I'm not sure that's such a good idea. He's this young, spry guy and
sure.
She's not. But not only that, truth, total transparency here, people.
Right.
She is not as motivated. So I said, if you drag her to the gym, she'll go because she wants to go for you, but it has to come from inside.
Change needs to come from within.
It has to come from within. And I said, based on some of other things he had told me about her habits and her lifestyle, I said, why don't you have her just get up and walk around the block a couple of times? The weather's getting nicer, but if she can walk around the block a couple of times a day, she'll feel better. And that's a really good start. Once again, it's the same with water. It's baby steps.
Yeah.
And, he thought that was a really good idea, actually. He thought that was a pretty good call. So it's all about those baby steps and thinking about how health should be who you are, not what you do, right? What is
it? Wait. Say that again, because we should hashtag that, right? Say it again.
Health should be who you are, not what you do.
Ponder that, ladies and gentlemen. How many of us are defined by the way we look, right? Or that fad diet? I mean, there's tons of them out there, right? Keto. I guess that's the way I could think of right now. But the point is we're all trying to be something. Why don't we just be who we are?
Right. And we have more control over that when we think. I mean, getting back to the spring cleaning part of it, let's talk about the fridge, if we want to just get down to brass tacks, right? We're coming out of the winter, all those comfort foods and all that stuff that we all have in our fridge, right? And it's nice that we have, now that we have this global economic society, that we have access to fruits and vegetables, whatever you want really all year. I'll never forget the first year that I could get blueberries in January. I'm thinking blueberries are an August fruit. When I was young, a very long time ago, we couldn't get blueberries. You got blueberries in August. What?
In the 1900s.
Right.
That's how Jackson introduces me. This is my dad. He was born in the 1900s.
Very cute. I like him already. Anyway, so we can get fruit all year round, but the bottom line is there's a lot of great fruit coming out and produce coming out for spring and summer. And it's very water heavy, it's very water rich. And there's no doubt that fruit tastes better in season. And I like to talk about not getting rid of, but crowding out.
Okay.
You know what? If you still want that comfort food, whatever it is, let's say that mac and cheese, I'm not going to tell you not to eat it. I'm going to tell you, you know what? Maybe have an apple first or have some carrot sticks first. Crowd it out and make those, once again, those habits, those baby steps till they become just part of your routine. Every time I come into the house, well, I always carry water with me everywhere. But when I come into the house, the first thing I do is have a cup of water. It's habit. I don't think about whether or not I'm thirsty.
Yeah.
I come into the house, I wash my hands, and I have water. Right. So it's just building those new habits. So that's just a couple of things on that. I would also say, I want to say just one thing about emotional health, because I think that's really, really critical here. And I learned this several years ago, and it was a real game changer for me. And that is, we are never short on criticisms about ourselves, right? We spill something. I know I have a teenager who's really hard on herself, right? And something will spill or something will go wrong. And oh my gosh, of course, I did this, or dumb me, or I'm so clumsy. We're very hard on ourselves, right? Why did I make that decision instead of this decision? And then we, of course, perseverate on it. But I would like to say, if you're going to be your own worst enemy, at least be your own best friend, which means at the end of the day, celebrate your wins, right? So maybe I didn't hit the goal that I had, that I wanted. I'll use a personal example. I had a business goal for myself for the first 2 weeks of this month, and I didn't hit it. But you know what? I worked really, really hard, and I couldn't have given it anymore. I gave it 100 and 110%. And as I was thinking about going down that path of, I should have done this, I should have done that, why didn't I this? I said, I worked really hard, and I'm really proud of the work I did. And I didn't hit that goal, but the work I did will pay off later. And that's how we need to talk to ourselves. So I'm not going to tell you not to stop criticizing yourself, because we all do it. But be aware, every time you say something negative about yourself to yourself, think of what your best friend would say to you in that same situation, and be your own best friend and say, you know what? We all make mistakes, and next time I'll just do it better. And that's one of the most important things about the whole spring cleaning and renewal, is your mindset and how you treat yourself.
So I'm hearing forgiveness. I'm hearing grace. I'm hearing having patience, which is hard for us to do in a normal world, but I think harder for us to do in the middle of a pandemic world, right? The last 2 years, and pause and still, you made that comment, every 3 years, 40% of people. That means next year, people we're going to see die. That just threw me for a loop. But the last 3 years, we went through, obviously world issues with the president, those who liked him, those who didn't. We dealt with impeachments. We dealt with a pandemic. We're in the middle right now of dealing with possible World War III. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's here we are. So I think to take a step back and say, hey, let me take a look at my emotional health, right? And we don't do that. Here in America, we don't want to talk about our weaknesses, right? Because we always have to be what? Strong. Well, guess what? I'm not always strong. Do I present myself in that way? Yes, because that's my positive mentality, right? But there are days that I'm crying on the inside. And I say that openly and super honestly there. We aren't supposed to be 100% together, right? Intention has to mean something. As long as you're growing and you're learning from it, right? At the end of the day. But I think we're harder on ourselves. I always, I recently heard, and I say recently, I probably mean within the last probably year. And this again, I feel, I don't know how I never got this before. It reminds me of the time that my mother wrote out the word assume, and I never got it until she wrote it out, right? Assume means you make an ass out of you and me, which is brilliant, right? When you really assume. But in saying that, it goes back, and I totally lost my thought. That's what happens. Just to be able to pause and say, hey, it's okay. I might have failed at that task, but I'm not a failure.
Right.
Makes a world of difference, an
Right.
absolute world of difference. Now, one of the other things you talked about is the emotional aspect. Let's talk about the environmental piece of spring cleaning, Davida.
So this is obviously, all of these things work together, right?
Yeah, you can't have one without the other.
You can't. They can't. They really feed off of each other. Yeah, they really. And I mean, I can tell you, obviously many stories, but they really do feed off of each other. And in the past 2 years, I think what a lot of people have realized is that they really need to be more proactive about their health in terms of getting more movement in terms of, let's say, eating healthier, better supplementation, losing weight. So a lot of people have connected those dots, but where a lot of people miss the boat or they don't bridge is the environmental aspect and the environment, the health of the environment around you. You know, I talk about what you put in your body, what you put on your body, what you surround your body with, and what you do with your body. So what you surround your body with is that environmental aspect. And okay, so we're going to start exercising, and we're going to start drinking more water, and we're going to start adding more produce, fresh produce into our days. So that's great. But then what about, what are you cleaning your house with? What are you brushing your teeth with? What are you washing your hair with? And why do I bring that up? Well, I bring that up because most of the items, or pretty much all of the items you buy off grocery store shelves, are filled with toxins, poisons. And if you're doing all of this good for yourself, I'll just give an example. I think I'm not going to make the general assumption all, but a huge majority of the toothpaste that you buy off any grocery store shelf is made in China. Now, I don't know about anybody else who's listening to this, but personally, I'm not interested in putting anything in my mouth that's been made in China. So that's just one thing to think of. The other thing is toothpaste is full of toxins. It's full of carcinogens. Any of that stuff that you buy off the shelf, we're talking about 12 to 15 known toxins. Let's talk about artificial colors made from petroleum and made from polyethylene glycol tags. These are known carcinogens. Why would you put something in your mouth that is a known carcinogen? I mean, why they're allowed to use it, I have no idea, okay?
Can I tell you why? Can I tell you why?
Money.
Money, and they have Beyonce marketing it, saying this is the toothpaste I use.
Right,
I mean,
right.
it's a marketing aspect.
Right, and you know, Europe is much stricter in there. A lot of the stuff we put in our products
Everyone is more strict than we are.
They can't use in Europe, right?
Yeah.
But I think another thing is, just to go back to the toothpaste example, toothpaste contains SLS. Now, sodium lauryl sulfates, if you're not aware, they're a foaming agent. They're a chemical foaming agent. And anything you use that you bought off the shelf that foams generally has SLS in it. SLS is a known carcinogen. Once again, you're putting in your mouth. It breaks down the inner protective lining of your mouth, and it is one of the major causes of cold sores. So I've had a lot of people come to me with an issue of cold sores. You know, they have teenagers who have constant cold sores. And the first thing I tell them is change your toothpaste. You need a toothpaste that doesn't have SLS in it. And 9 times out of 10, it's such a simple fix. But you go to the dentist, and what is the dentist doesn't know, right? You're talking to your dentist. It's your mouth. What should I do? Well, switch out your toothpaste. If you're cleaning your house with any chlorine products, well, here's a little factoid that a lot of people don't know. Chlorine was used in World War II as a choking agent. So when you're cleaning your house and you're gasping and gagging, you're not imagining it. You're really gasping and gagging. That's really what it's designed to do. And it does create severe respiratory and breathing issues. Another simple fix. If anybody in your house has a breathing issue, get rid of the Clorox.
Yeah, my friend has asthma so bad that she can't use Clorox. So when they family would clean, she'd have to leave the house. And then it had to be scented down and aired out because she couldn't inhale. I totally get it.
Totally the worst thing I heard was when somebody told me they were putting the Clorox in their kid's bath. I can clean the tub with it. I guess I can clean my kid with it. And I was appalled, and I needed to be gentle about it, right? Because you don't want to criticize somebody's
for sure, especially with parenting.
But you know, but that had to be one of the worst when I heard that.
Kids
drink their bath water, right? Kids drink their bath water all the time. So if you've got breathing issues, or anybody in your house has breathing issues or any issue, I mean, get that stuff out of your house, okay? Dishwashing liquids, fabric softeners, paper towels, baby care, they all contain, I mean, the list goes on, they all contain formaldehyde. Well, formaldehyde, another known carcinogen, right? So if you're going to eat well and you're going to exercise and you're going to drink more water, why would you use personal care products that are known carcinogens, right? Anything you put on your skin is absorbed into your body, right? Your skin is your first line of defense. It's the first layer of your immune system, and it is designed to keep the toxins and the poisons out. So why would you deliberately put something carcinogenic on your skin if you're trying to make all of these other positive changes? So get that stuff out of the house. Parabens, cosmetics, hair care products, personal care products. They contain, they're hormone disruptors, they're endocrine disruptors, they affect fertility. Here's a fact that most people don't want to hear. 1 in 3 men have low sperm counts.
Because of that?
We're seeing infertility in this generation like we have never seen before. I mean, Brian, I'm older than you are, but I don't remember. Now, I don't know that we talked about it either, but it was never an issue, this fertility issue like it is now.
But right? My grandmother was 1 of 13.
I mean, I have 7, right? So all of these things, all of these toxins. So, and it's baby steps, right? Obviously, you can, and I would encourage you to throw everything out all at once, but it's learning how to replace those things, and of course, that's part of what I do is help people through that process, right? So just think about these things, because I was talking to someone, and he's a heart attack survivor and a diabetic, and he's eating organic and he's going plant-based, and then he's putting all this stuff on his skin, and I'm like, Jimmy, why are you doing that? It's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, and all of these companies, J&J, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, I mean, the lawsuits against them. I'm old enough to remember the lawsuit, the talc baby powder lawsuit, right, that contained asbestos. I mean, mesothelioma, very rare cancer, ovarian cancer. I mean, who is it? Is it J&J alone? Over 40,000 lawsuits filed against them. Why would you trust these companies?
Right. Well,
anyway,
listen, you gave a lot of information.
I go off on a soapbox here, but it really is my passion to just help people understand these things. People just don't know.
I think that's why sitting down with you and having conversations is so well. You're just keeping us, eyes opened a little bit more educated, a little bit more aware. And plus, it's a great conversation. So why wouldn't you want to sit down and chat with Miss Davida Fink, right? Well, listen, we are here at that time. Unfortunately, I feel like we just started talking. But why don't you tell us a few different ways that we could reach out to you, Davida?
Well, really, the easiest way is through my beautiful website, done by Brian. So if you're outside and you need a website, please contact Brian.
Thank you.
healthpureandsimple.com, and through there's a link to my Calendly, so you can schedule a free 20-minute consultation. There is a phone number, and I look forward to sitting down with everybody and helping in whatever way I can. It's my purpose, it's my passion, and of course I appreciate always sitting down with you, Brian.
Anytime that we get to sit down, we find ourselves, 2 hours later in conversation, having really in-depth, knowledgeable stuff. It's not a lot. We don't talk about a lot of fluff, which is something that I actually do enjoy. I always learn from you every time that we talk. So I appreciate that energy and that thing that you bring to us. I do want to kind of make sure that we thank our sponsors, which is the mobile solutions with Applo, the community pay it forward, make the grade, and then last but not least, the bookkeeping landlord. Without you folks, we would not be able to hang out on a weekly basis like we do. So with that being said, I will also have the information so you can reach out to Davida up above. Actually, yeah, it's going to be above. I was thinking it was going to be the right, but it's not a side by side. So check that out. Check out some of her blogs. She has some great information thrown out there. Plus, she does some really cool recipes that you can actually follow. And real quick, what's your favorite recipe?
Oh my gosh. I only have a few up on the blog, but I like the potato bean broccoli chowder.
Okay.
It really is a nice, thick, creamy chowder if you're at the end of a long day. And I think the other thing about my recipes is, once again, not a lot of fluff. They're easy to follow. This is how this is where this is. My daughter loves it, and here's the ingredients, and here's the directions, and enjoy. I mean, I don't fill it up with a lot of stuff.
Right. Straight Talk with Davida.
Straight Talk.
And that's not the movie with Dolly Parton. Let me just make sure that we don't get in trouble for that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your time. We appreciate your energy. And we look forward to seeing you next week with our very special guest. Take care.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.